talking about why would I go 50-50 with a man when I can just pay 100% of the bills by myself? You would pay 50-50 with the man because 50% of a $5,000 mortgage is significantly better than paying all of that shit by yourself. But to them, having to listen to and be led by a man is not worth the money to them. They would rather struggle than to listen to a man who wants to protect and provide from them.
They want children, is what they want. They want somebody to tell what to do. But an independent woman knows how to be interdependent.
They expect obedience without earning any respect, and they come in with like a very authoritarian type of leadership instead of being inspirational, and they just expect that having the title of being a man automatically gives you that entitlement of everyone around you following you, regardless of lack of characteristics that prove that maybe you don't have the leadership qualities that you think you're entitled to.
So you think because you work, now I have to now assess my lifestyle based on what I produce around your habits. And that's the disconnect for me. You got a chance to be 25, maybe 30, or whatever range of level you live your life. So you want to show up in my life at 28 years old with $80,000, $90,000, $100,000 in student loan debt that you didn't talk to me about prior. You want to buy the car that I probably would have told you couldn't afford. You didn't ask me about that. You're going to get a condo or whatever you do. And then you now want the privilege of my discipline, my grind, my hustle to benefit your individual choices. Chick, you're crazy.
I'm just trying to figure out, like, women get blamed literally for like being a regular adult. And then when we list all of the things that make us a regular adult, then y'all be like, well, this just being an adult. I'm just trying to figure out how any of this is our fault. Like, I am 45. How is any of this my fault? How is the fact that I had to go and be successful my fault? How is it that I was raised to be independent my fault? How is it even my parents' fault? Mostly just because they're trying to keep me from being homeless. How is it anyone's fault in this generation that we have to adhere to the rules of capitalism? Like, you talk about women who are just fully grown adults as if we're wrong for existing in society. I don't understand independent women. What is the problem with being independent? I see the problem with being hyper independent. I don't see a problem with being independent though.
So Bo, this is where I wish somebody else would have said this, because then, but I know that since you said it, you won't take it personally.
No.
You're saying that we care about the issues being independent. We don't give a shit what y'all do while y'all are single. We're talking about in relationships where y'all still want to be independent. Your parents raised you to be independent adults because that's their job. Which back then I would say our parents are doing a significantly better job. The average 18-year-old is not ready to leave the house at nearly the clip that our generation was.
Yeah.
Because when we were 18, a lot of us knew when we're done, 18, you gotta go. Or the first time you call yourself smelling yourself, as they would say, it's time for you to go. So we're not talking about you being independent. That's not an issue. It's the fact is that you guys want to get with a man in any relationship type and expect for him to play a significantly traditional role while you play a significantly modern role. That's where the conversation is at. But so you're doing all those average things like the cooking, the cleaning, the going to school, the going to work. Nobody has an issue with that. Where those things become an issue is when you use them as a talking point in a conversation where you're dating somebody, where you use that as saying, hey, well, why would I do that for a man? I can do A, B, C, and D by myself. When the answer is, why would you, like you say, we've seen what's the big jaw girl talking about, why would I go 50-50 with a man when I can just pay 100% of the bills by myself? You would pay 50-50 with the man because 50% of a $5,000 mortgage is significantly better than paying all of that shit by yourself. But to them, having to listen to and be led by a man is not worth the money to them. They would rather struggle than to listen to a man who wants to protect and provide from them. Because these same women who swear they want leaders, they don't. They want chauffeurs. A woman listens to a leader and wherever he goes, she follows. A woman can tell a chauffeur where to take her, how to get him there, and then what car to drive and exactly what route to take. And that's what it seems like most women want. And they use chauffeur, like being chauffeured and being led synonymously.
So I don't disagree with you. Like I don't disagree with any of that. But you say independent women. Those are hyper independent women. Those are women who are overly independent that does not those are the women that don't even want men.
But
They don't really want they want children is what they want. They want somebody to tell what to do. But an independent woman knows how to be codependent. I mean, not codependent, interdependent.
so
Like,
that's where we disagree.
okay.
Because again, I'll tell you why. Remember, I said y'all like to redefine things, not you specifically, just women in general.
Mhm.
Hyper independent, all that's not a thing. It's either you're independent or you're the same. It's independent, dependent, or interdependent. Like those are the three options.
Mhm.
Y'all made an extra option just so you can use it to describe yourself being too much of the one thing, which is independent. You being hyper independent is like a woman saying, "Well, I'm not fat. I'm hyper thick." Like that's not a thing. That's not how that works. And it's not. And to be fair, it's not y'all's fault because a lot of men have allowed you to do it, right? But you noticed that I'm not one of those. I've always pushed back on words already having a definition. Merriam-Webster's, it's got 1 billion words in it. Use them shits accordingly. So it's not about hyper independence. That's not what we're talking about. What we're talking about are the women who literally think that, well, I'm going to get with a man. He's going to be responsible for everything, including me, including my safety, my provision, my protection, being required to not required to, expecting to lay his life down in the event that it calls to, and all of these other dutiful things. While if he tells me he wants to cook, I can tell him I'm order DoorDash. If he tells me he doesn't want me to wear this, I'm still going to wear it because I'm a strong, independent woman. That's what we're talking about. That's not hyper independence. That's just refusing to be interdependent.
I just had a question real quick because you mentioned something about the 50-50. And if a woman refutes that, she's not following the leader. Do you agree with that? That a leader would go 50-50 with their
Yes,
partner?
I believe that a leader can still pay for half of his household financially because, again, where he covers up with the rest, he doesn't do half of the man stuff. He's not going to do half of the maintenance. He's not going to do half of the protecting. And he also doesn't have to get to take half of the responsibility for the household. So now, do I personally do that? Fuck no. But just because a man, which most men cannot, afford to protect and provide and pay for fully financially for a woman, that doesn't make him any less of a leader. Now, what I would give you and the ground that I can see there is that there is some equality and some more equity that he does lose there that he would necessarily have if he paid for 100% of everything. The problem is that women feel like he shouldn't have any because they feel they should be equals. And in a relationship, relationships don't work when women lead. Relationship in mass. There's always there's a sucker for everybody, and I'm not going to talk about those dudes tonight. We'll say that for Trey's show later. But for in mass, women don't do well leading relationships. They don't last long. Women's feelings are dynamic as they should be because that's your God-given biological and hormonal right. But when it comes to a man, if you tie a man's leadership qualification to him only being able to lead, then where most women will fail at that is we'll look at men. We're going to look at the men you slept with prior, the men you submitted to prior, the men you have kids with. And if all of those men were not the men who were paying for all of those households, how dare you require that of the next man that you choose to let lead you and you want to take his last name?
So, I mean, I personally just feel like what happens in a lot of these conversations is men, again, not you, but for the most part, they expect obedience without earning any respect. And they come in with like a very authoritarian type of leadership instead of being inspirational. And they just expect that having the title of being a man automatically gives you that entitlement of everyone around you following you, regardless of lack of characteristics that prove that maybe you don't have the leadership qualities that you think you're entitled to. Behavioral quality is just lifestyle in general that maybe don't give that automatic entitled leadership role. And I think when women combat that, this type of conversation comes up to where it's like, well, you want me to protect you and provide for you and do all these things for you. If we look at the economy and it's just excuses are given, but like when you really come down to it, women are doing it. Like women are doing it.
I agree with everything you said except for one thing. There are no excuses being given. There are reasons. An excuse absolves somebody of responsibility. A reason explains why something happened. That's the one thing I disagree with. Now, I also would tell you that if you attach a man's financial capability to his leadership, that's perfectly right for you to do. However, you should have figured that out before you committed to that man. Because if you wait until you guys are in a relationship to start treating him as less than because he's not paying all your bills, when it's time to pay less bills, that shows that you either one, didn't communicate what your expectations were, or two, vet that man properly, or three, have the courage to stick to your convictions. Because what a lot of women will do is, and the same thing with men, y'all settle. Y'all will say, well, you know what? Yeah, he can't pay all the bills. That's okay. I can take that now. But you can only take that until there's a disagreement. You can only take that until there's an issue about what you want to do. You can only take that to to do that you don't want him to do. So if you're trying to, if you do that, again, I'm not even going to shame you for it. Mind you, I'm on the other side of that fence. I think men should pay for all the bills in the household. It's a hill I'll die on. And it's not because me paying all the bills means I can tell you to shut the fuck up. That's not what it's for. That's just how I was raised. And at the same time, a man's earning potential outside the home usually is higher than a woman's anyway. So I like the path of least resistance. I would rather my woman be at home taking care of our children in the household than going to work for another man and having to ask him permission to go do shit. That's weird to me. That's just my personal. But in mass, men can't afford to do that. The average man makes $52,000 a year. The average woman doesn't want a $52,000 lifestyle either. So knowing those two things to be true and can be proven statistically, it's just not something that most men are going to be able to do. So if you decide to disqualify the man that can't, you're aiming at a very, very, very small group of men, which will require you to then just not just worry about what you want. You have to go do what those men, You then have to go be what those men want their women to be. And a lot of women aren't willing to do that.
All right, let's go to.
So how do you properly?
Let's go to Keish Dan Tree. True.
So how do we properly, as women, vet men financially? Like, how do we
ask for a tax return? That shit is easy. That is, and I'm not trying to be funny, but this is just, again, fellas, if you the niggas that struggle is not gonna like this. If you're getting ready to commit to a man, right? And I have a saying, like, if a man can be in your guts, you should be able to be in his pockets. If you're in a relationship with a man and you still don't know what he's capable of financially, you are retarded. Because why would you be considering committing to a man who is an unknown variable somewhere? The same way a man shouldn't commit to you if he didn't know that you'd never been a whore before. He should probably find that out. You should find out what he's capable of financially. And it may not just necessarily be the tax return. Look at you saying when y'all go out to eat, is he logging into the bank account looking? Is he checking shit? Like I'm saying, is his card always getting declined? Like, every now and then Chase will be like, hey, this is a big ass purchase. You sure? Like, send us a text message. But if that shit come back and the waitress slide that shit real soft on the table and walk away and don't make eye contact with nobody, you know what type of guy you're dealing with. Just look at how he lives. Look at the quality of his clothes, the quality of his character. Look at how he talks about money. There are a lot of things that give you an insight into what men have going on financially without you having to say, show me, log into your bank account. But the fastest way, just show me last year's W-2. There's a box on there. It'll show you exactly.
So you don't think, so let me ask you this, with you saying that, you don't think that if I was to say, hey, True, let me see your W-2s. Let me, you don't think he'd be like, what the, you know what I mean? Like,
if you do it too early on, yeah. But we're talking about.
You say,
no, I look at you for smile and tell you, hell no, you crazy.
Even if we've been together and if we're working towards marriage, you still wouldn't show me.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell you why. Like, Willie's my boy, but I'm gonna say this. I don't think that it's honestly fair to spew that perspective, and I'm gonna explain to you why, at least from my vantage. There's nothing wrong with assessing a man's ability financially. I think the issue is that because women earn money now, they think and take this position just like Restoring said, well, you're operating off this authoritative position. Well, I would say the same thing for the female demographic. So you think because you work, now I have to now assess my lifestyle based on what I produce around your habits. And that's the disconnect for me. You got a chance to be 25, maybe 30, or whatever range of level you lived your life. So you want to show up in my life at 28 years old with $80,000, $90,000, $100,000 in student loan debt that you didn't talk to me about prior. You want to buy the car that I probably would have told you couldn't afford. You didn't ask me about that. You're going to get a condo or whatever you do. And then you now want the privilege of my discipline, my grind, my hustle to benefit your individual choices. Chick, you're crazy. I'll tell you, you're crazy.
Let me explain to you why I said it, right? I agree with everything you said. This is why I say to do that, because once a woman opens that door, that means that every question you just asked, she has no business getting offended by. And we have the leverage there because now all our cards are on the table. You know, I only made $100,000 last year, right? But now let's talk about these student loans. Let's talk about your spending habits. Let's talk about what your credit card interest is. When you give something, you give one thing, right? One little thing, and you gain so much more. That's why I said to do that, because that now a woman has gone to somebody, asked them a very, very personal and private question with good reason. But what she also can't do is, guess what? She can't say that, hey, I don't want to talk about that now. Or wait, no, why does my money matter? Or why do you care about what my credit cards are? Or why do you care, like, you know what I'm saying? Why do you want to see my credit report? That's why I said to do that for guys. And also it disqualifies the men who know they have something to hide. The only man who don't understand what I just said, which is, you know, the strategy and why I did it, are the men who really don't make any money. Because I know you understand the strategy of why I said it. So I know you get that. But then again, at the same time, True, we make a lot of money. So it's not an issue for us. This isn't something that guys who make a lot of money would even ever have to do. It would never get there. A woman dating you would never think that better. I use to make it a personal example. If Restoring the Village and you had been dating for a year, she would never have to question how much you made. Your lifestyle shows it. The way you take care of yourself shows it. The way you navigate, the way that the conversation you have about money, because they come up, would show that you are doing well. Now, take a regular nigga. He's not going to be able to move that way. And you remember, I'm not talking about regular dudes. I'm just talking about the dudes that they actually want to date. Because the dudes that they have to do this shit for, they don't make it that far no way. They just had their babies.
But the challenge, though, and this is just my perspective, the majority of women, again, having jobs, because most of y'all have jobs, think that they qualify to have this conversation. Just like you said, there's a bracket of men who this is not an issue for. If you are a woman with your eyes open and he's been able to, get your attention, hang around you 6 months plus, I would assume, based on patterns and consistency, the way he moves to the earth, you can probably assess. You probably have been to his place or a couple of them, seen a car or two, whatever. So it's kind of safe to assume he may be doing all right in life. My issue is again, since the gate has been open and women are now earning money, now they get to think they get to sit at the table with men and assess his manhood based on their little earning potential. I take that personally offensive. Sweetie, you'll never be a man, regardless of if you have a job or not. I'll run circles around you with one hand tied behind my back in most cases. So I think that there's this energy that exists because girls really do think
100%
they have a job,
100%.
that they at the table with men. And I'm like, you got to be freaking kidding me. So I'm saying for the mass of men, and not the exceptional men, I'm saying men in general. As a young lady, you would be best suited if you're trying to actually gain something from that man. You have a job, he has a job, or however y'all earn your money. Provide value. You shouldn't be asking that man, what can you do for me? What can we do for each other? Because you want something from him too. And women don't do that enough. And that's my issue with it. And
I agree with that, champ. And I think what I should have said was, and I think what you just pointed out was that a lot of women ask or care about these things from a place of what can you do for me? And not from an honest place of I just need to know. Like I want so that way I can plan. That makes sense. Now, if a woman is coming to you saying, well, will you be able to afford to take me on 6 vacations a year, pay my car note, upgrade my car every 2 years, make sure I have every new iPhone, make sure you can spend $1,500 on these hair helmets I love to wear, and support my Sephora trips, and I can eat lunch at Erewhon all the time? Obviously not. But I didn't think that I had to explain that because I didn't have to explain it to you. But I didn't think I needed to make the overarching point was that, like, if a woman and you guys are in a relationship already, you've been dating for a year or so, you guys are locked in and planning that next step. So all those exploratory conversations should have been having. And at the same time,
so for me, I think I was asking Willie,
the same way you ask for his my chart before you fuck him, when it's time for you to combine with him and combine households, I don't think sharing a tax return is a big ask.
So I think I was asking too, y'all know I always like to relate it to my experiences. And when you said that, it made me think of, you know, obviously when I was married, and I can honestly say I never asked that question because, like you said, I looked at him with the assumption, you know what I mean, that his car was right, his look was right, his everything was right, you know. But then as time went on, the closer we got to the engagement, then me getting married, I'm like, bro, where's your money? Like, you know, I didn't say that, but in my mind, I'm like, where's your money? Like, where's you doing? You leave out this house every day, flipping houses, flipping properties, all that good stuff. Where's the help? You know, and I'm only speaking for myself. Where's the help? Where's the money? Help, please, nigga, please. You know, that's how I wound up being